All right, so the second thing we want to see, if we're going to live in high definition in regards to our finances, is that we need to return to God what belongs to God. We need to return to God what belongs to God. Not long ago, I was at McDonald's with our 3 boys, and I gave out the cheeseburgers and the fries, and I gave the baby Levi his French fries, and I set them in front of him, and I say to him, Levi, can I have a fry? What do you think he said? No, they're mine. They're mine. Suddenly, these fries are his. He forgot that I was the provider of all things greasy and fried and salty. He forgot where they came from. Suddenly they've gone from being mine to his. I never saw him break out his American Express and pay for them. They're now his. Well, we do the same thing with our stuff a lot of the time. We forget where it comes from. We forget that God is the provider and the source of everything that we have. And so as a result, we don't want to give anything back to God. And Leviticus 27 says that a tithe of everything from the land, whether grain from the soil or fruit from the trees, belongs to the Lord. It is holy to the Lord. Now, that word tithe is derived from the Hebrew word ma'aser, and literally means a tenth. Tithe means that it's tenth. And so that verse is saying that 10% belongs to the Lord of everything that we have. And it's one thing when we're talking about fries. That's not such a big deal. But the reality is, the more that we have, the bigger amounts we're talking about, the harder and harder it gets to give. Okay, so let me show you what I mean. We're going to let these fries represent money. And at my house, fries pretty much do represent money because McDonald's is like its own line item in our family budget with 3 kids. So this is my income. I got 10 fries laid out here, and this is what I make. And let's just say that every fry represents $1. So I've got $10. Well, God says 10% is his, a tenth. So it's easy for me to give God $1 out of 10 because, what can I do with $1? Maybe get, a candy bar and half of a Coke or something. Not much at all. But what if I make $30,000? What if now each fry is going to represent $3,000? And God talks about 10% and I need to give God a tenth of that. Or what if God's really blessed me and I make $60,000? And now a tenth is $6,000, and I sit down to write that check, and that's a little bit harder. And I'm thinking, there's no way I'm going to write a check for $6,000 because $1 is one thing, but I can do a lot with $6,000. There's a lot of things I can do with that, and so I'm a little more hesitant. It's even easier for me to give it away. It's a lot easier for me to give it away if the fries aren't even mine. If you leave the table and it's your fries laying here, I can give away your fries all day, no big deal. So it's easier for us to give it away if we recognize that it's all God's, that it all comes from God and it all is God's. And he says a tenth belongs to him. And as we talked about a few weeks ago, we talked about grace. And we might say, well, isn't this old covenant law? Yes, it is. This is old covenant law that wouldn't necessarily apply to us anymore. But here's the principle. Did everything stop belonging to God? As we move from the old covenant to the new covenant, does that mean things no longer belong to God? It's still all his, isn't it? And he still is the provider of everything, and he asks us to give back a tenth. And so if we really understand that it all comes from God, it's a lot easier to give. And tithing teaches me to put God first in this area and in every area. Proverbs 3:9 says, honor the Lord with your wealth, with the leftovers. No, that's not what it says. It says with the first fruits of all your crops. Underline that, with the first fruits of all your crops. God doesn't need our money. He owns everything already. But tithing keeps God first in our lives. It helps us to keep that priority right. The problem is most people don't put God first. Most people just don't. Instead of learning to trust God more and more, what we end up learning is to be selfish on how to keep more and more for ourselves. All right, so let's come back to our fries here. This is what our income. This is the totality of it represented by these fries. Here's the priority most of us give. We say, okay, right off the top, I've got to pay taxes. The government's going to take some of my fries, and there's nothing I can do about that. I owe that. And then I got to pay a mortgage, so we'll take a couple of fries for that too, because I got a good interest rate, so not too bad. Then I've got a car payment, but hey, I look good in my car, so there goes my car payment. And then we got credit card bills. We got to pay the bills. Actually, we better take a big one for that because we did a lot of shopping. And then we got kids, so the kids are going to have to just make do. So there's the big kid, there's the medium kid, there's the little kid. All right, so we get stuff for the kids, school supplies, soccer games, all that good stuff. Got to pay for that. Then we got bills we got to pay. Got TV, phone, utility. Got stuff I want to buy for me, you know. So I got to get that, and maybe put a little bit away. Put some in the 401k, and then all that leaves is just a little bit left over for God, and we end up giving God the leftovers. So now, when I'm tithing, I'm prioritizing my whole life around God. I'm worshiping Him with my life. And it's increasing my faith more and more. And here's what I believe, and here's what I believe the Bible teaches. I believe that I can live on 90%, that 90% with God will go farther than 100% without Him. That's what I've lived, and that's what I've learned to believe. And I believe that's what the Bible teaches us in Malachi 3. It says, bring the whole tithe into the storehouse. And scholars agree that the storehouse today would be the church. Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Test me in this. Underline that. Test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that you will not have room enough for it. I will prevent pests from devouring your crops, and the vines in your fields will not cast their fruit, says the Lord Almighty. I believe this. I believe God means what He says. And He says, test me in this. Give me a tenth and test me, and see if I won't throw open the floodgates of heaven and bless you. Now, many of us have never trusted Him in that way. So what I want to propose today is that we do something a little different. And I'm going to explain that to you.